Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever, whenever you are listening to this. Today, I have been having some phone calls actually, and I even recorded a podcast with someone. And I was kind of inspired to answer some questions in a bit more detail that I perhaps didn't get an opportunity to answer in the podcast itself. And amongst that, I've been having some conversations with people, and there's been a lot that's been coming up. And I guess something that came up both in the podcast today, but also in some conversations I've been having today, is this idea of sort of a loss of direction or a lack of direction in perhaps finances, feeling a little bit like you're chasing your tail in the sense that you're living paycheck to paycheck. Maybe you feel like you're kind of in this cycle where you're spending money, feeling guilty about it, then looking at your bank account, realizing that you didn't follow the budget that you set out to follow. And that's creating perhaps some stress. It might be playing on your mind a little bit. And from the conversation that I had earlier with someone, this is the position they were in, but also they were feeling like they weren't really fulfilled in their job. And they had qualifications and skill sets in other areas of their life, but perhaps weren't able to monetize them in a way that they really wanted to, that was going to give them the safety and security that they need. And whilst very much the conversation was around money, and if in you're in this position, maybe you think actually I need to budget harder, I need to be working harder in my jobs to be making ends meet. Actually, sometimes when we think about it, it's more around finding our purpose and more around feeling more at ease with what it is that we actually want to achieve in our lives. And when we set off on a new journey, and I've spoken about this many times, but when we set ourselves on a new journey, and what I mean by that is that we have to understand, and I got asked this today, if I thought that this person's situation was particularly unique. And what we have to understand is that we all deal with money on a daily basis. We all deal with money in different ways, varying different ways, whether that's from paying a bill to working in HR and paying your staff, or being a CEO of a company, or going to the supermarket, or even just waking up and turning the hot water tap on, right? We all deal with money on a daily basis, whether we're aware of it and see it, and whether it gets our attention positively or negatively, or we just are blind to it and we don't see it at all, to be quite honest. So I think we can go through seasons in our life. We can go, I often talk about, the coaching journey being one that is sort of 3 months, maybe to a year, but it's certainly not in replacement of therapy, which really dives into your past and understanding how your past has led you to this point. Coaching is really more about you have a goal, you want to achieve it, you want to make X amount of money, you want to feel more at ease with your finances, you want to feel more financially secure, you want to have that successful business, you want to be creating the impact that you want to be creating in the world. And so, for that reason, coaching is really only supposed to be for a season. It's not supposed to be a replacement of therapy for the rest of your life. Sure, we can all have business coaches, we can all have financial coaches, we can all have life coaches, but life is fluid. Life is not linear. And so, often the life experience that we have as humans is that we go through peaks and troughs. There are times in our lives for all of us where we feel very financially secure and perhaps even prosper financially. And then there might be times in our lives where we feel like we don't have enough, or we need to work harder to have more, or that we're perhaps lacking in some way financially. And when we come from this place of lack, we're obviously coming from this place of scarcity, and that limits our vision, both physically, our vision of what we see around us, but also mentally of the opportunities that are around us. Because sometimes we discount things before giving them a full chance because we think that it's not meant for us, because we don't feel worthy and deserving of the goal that we've actually set for ourselves. And I think the biggest change happens is around this power of intentionality. And if you're struggling right now to perhaps get a consistent flow of clients, to perhaps set up your business in a certain way, perhaps you're struggling to scale your business in a certain way, we have to be very clear about the power of intentionality. Everything is cause and effect. If you start off with the thinking that this isn't really meant for me, it's not supposed to be for me, I don't really know if I can achieve it, um, I don't know if I believe that it's possible for me to do that. That's because our thinking is focusing, our brain is looking for evidence to support the belief that it's not possible for us. Okay. So our brain is always filtering information to prove us right. Okay. So if our initiating thought is that's just not meant for me, my business, I don't want to make big amounts of money. I just want to help people. That is what's going to inevitably happen for you. You're not going to be making the income that you actually truly deserve because you're shrinking your vision because you think that that is what it takes to actually be successful. And maybe you resent money in some kind of way and you see people that are having really successful businesses online and you tell yourself, actually, that's not really meant for me. I'm not really here for the money whole thing just feels icky, then you're kind of missing the point of having the impact that you really want in business. I'm sure, and I use this analogy in the podcast today, but I'm sure Mother Teresa didn't start off in her life and doing amazing, wonderful things, supporting and helping people with the vision of being a millionaire. But at the same time, we all know who she was, right? And the reason for that is because of the ripple effect and the impact that she's had and creating this legacy around the good work and the humanitarian work that she did in her life, which I'm sure on some level came back to her financially. So we can often discount the importance of money in our lives and in our business. Now, some people will tell you it's not about the money, you've got to be of complete service to everyone all the time. But when we live in that extreme of both ends, so firstly, feeling like we actually don't want to charge for anything and we just want to give everything away for free on the one hand, and then the duality of that is overcharging for services and products, in which case we make no money because people don't pay for the service and products, right? You kind of need to find a balance in the middle, something that feels right for you, where you are honest and fully aligned with integrity, with actually genuinely what it is that you want to achieve. And it's not a shameful thing to want to make a financially successful business, right? There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's just that I think people are shamed so often for wanting to be financially successful that actually it means that they shrink themselves and they tell themselves, actually, I'm just going to settle for where I am. I'm just going to be happy with surviving because really, who needs to thrive anyway? And I think that this lens is often one that holds a lot of people back. And so, if you're experiencing this type of thinking right now, we need to be really challenging ourselves and seeking new evidence. So, when I said before, um, you know, that if we think that is it really meant for us and it's probably not going to happen for us, and we kind of end up down the echo chamber of social media of people that really resent money and resent all these people making successful businesses, and that's not very helpful at all. And there is an exercise that we do in coaching which is the A to F model, and you can go online and Google this, or perhaps if you've done coaching with me you'll be familiar with this model. But the E in that A to F is evidence. So when we set out with an intention, we need to be truly honest with ourselves about what we want rather than what we don't want. That is the first key thing. When I ask people, what do you want? Because we are so conditioned to play small and not be true to our most inherent, deepest desires, what often comes up for people is this idea of like, well, I don't want to be broke. Well, I don't want to be doing something that I don't enjoy. And this is a really natural coping mechanism that our brain creates for ourselves because our brain loves safety. It loves to feel safe and secure. So by actually admitting to ourselves and saying, actually, I want something bigger than this, I want to achieve my highest potential. Our brain is so scared of failing or succeeding that actually it convinces us to stay where we are because it feels safe. And then we kind of go down that cycle of perhaps even lying to ourselves and saying to ourselves, actually, this isn't really what I want, and I'm actually quite happy to settle, when really that's not going to bring you the joy that you need. And so you're going to keep being hit in the face by the same lesson over and over again. And that could look like being made redundant from a job or, hitting a wall in your business over and over again until you learn this lesson to be authentically showing up who you are and speaking your truth about what it is that you actually do want. And once you get honest with yourself about what it is that you actually want and the intention behind that. So, for example, let's say you want to make £10,000 profit. You've got to get intentional with why is that significant? What is the significance of that goal that you have set for yourself on a deeper level in your business? What would it mean for you if that actually happened? So, for example, I was coaching someone and they rented a property and they said that they wanted to buy a property. And I said to them, like, what's the significance? What's the significance for you for being able to buy that property? Now, there's loads of schools of thought out there. If you go on Instagram or TikTok, you can find hundreds of people telling you that it's a great idea to buy a property, and you can find hundreds of people out there who think it's a terrible idea to buy a property, depending on who you ask and which lens you look through. But the only thing that matters is you and your life journey and the path that you are on. Life is a movie for one. It doesn't matter what those people and their perspectives are about buying a property. And she actually said to me, well, what it would really mean for me is that I can paint my walls the color that I want. It means that I can drill holes in the wall whenever I want. It means I can come home and have the carpet that I want. It means that this can be a home and feel like my home and own the land of my home and not just be renting off of someone else and living in a system. Now, obviously, when you buy a home, if you're not buying it cash outright, you are going to have a mortgage. And so you are going to be succumb to some kind of authority within that. But the trade-off for this person being that they then have the freedom to be able to treat their home in the way that they really see fit in terms of actually creating a home and not just having a house. And I think that's often what's missed in this mainstream narrative. Like, should we buy a house? Should we not buy a house? It's not a great investment. It is a great investment because people are so obsessed with the money and being so obsessed with the financial details that actually we miss the whole point of life, which is to enjoy it, enjoy the now, and what financial freedom actually means, which is having safety and security for the future, but also enjoying your life now. Because if we're not enjoying our life now and we're just living always for the future, then what the hell is the point? And if we're always in debt and living for the past, then also what's the point, right? So we have to be really honest and intentional with the goal that we want, understand what the significance is of that, like our why behind the buy. So that's what I always say, the why behind the buy. You want to buy that, you want to save up for that. What's the why behind your buy? What's the why behind your investment? What's the why behind, creating this business for yourself? Simon Sinek, is it Know Your Why? Power of Why? Something about why, but everyone knows Simon Sinek's book because it's all about why, right? And so understanding your why is a key part of that. And then we want to be seeking evidence for ourselves. Obviously, I'm summarizing this in terms of a financial coaching tool, but understanding how our brains look for evidence to support the intention that we've set for ourselves. So, if you've set this intention for yourself that you want to scale your business, that you want to have a consistent stream of clients, okay, the question is not where are the clients? The question is then, how do I create these clients? How do I show up and serve these clients? And then we go out there and we look for evidence. We look for evidence for other people that have done it in the way that we would like to be doing it, right? And no two businesses are exactly the same, right? They're going to look very different. And that's the whole beauty of this complex, web of life that we're all suspect of living in, right? Because business is n- perhaps universal to some degree, but the way that we monetize our business is going to look very different for everyone. And so we want to be seeking evidence. If our belief is no one like me out there is running the business that I want to live, well, then we need to be going out there and seeking evidence and looking for people like us as individuals who have already been on that journey and already done it in a similar or maybe way that proves to my brain that it's possible. And if you really think about it, if someone else has done it, then it's possible. And I hate this idea that because someone else has done something, there's too much competition. That's not the way the universe works. We all have special gifts, and multiple people might have exactly the same gift. But the way that that is going to transcend itself, the way that it's actually going to come to fruition, the type of community that you build around you is going to be a reflection of you. And so that is where the beauty of our uniqueness comes, because even as a financial coach, I know that there's loads of amazing financial coaches out there. But the way that we talk about money, the way that we ourselves deal with money, the way that we help our clients become, financially free or feeling more confident with their finances is going to be very different. The method and the technique is going to be very different. And it might be that one person might need lots of support from lots of different financial coaches to be able to piece their own puzzle together. Or it may mean that you are their silver bullet to help them get to that next place. Okay. So obviously, I'm speaking about myself and my industry, but this applies for you as well. So if you're in this place where you're feeling a little bit anxious about your finances, where you're feeling like you're stuck in a rut, and so you're living like in this vicious cycle of either paycheck to paycheck, or you've got a sum of money and you're so scared to do anything with it that actually you feel stuck, and so therefore your bank account is actually stagnant, like money is not moving through your business because you're scared of spending it and investing it, and therefore you're not feeling trustworthy enough to actually receive it. This is where the cycle of feeling stuck with money comes, and behind that sits the money block. And to first examine that, the first place we can do that is understanding the intentionality behind our actions. Everything is cause and effect. So think to yourself, right? If your initiating thought is, I don't want to go back to the job that I was in, I don't want to take another job, I don't want to work X hours. What's going to happen is our brain is going to identify that as actually what we do want. And so always be focusing on what you want, not on what you don't want. And this is like going to the gym and training those muscles to build the six pack, to build the biceps, right? We have to treat our brain in the same way. We have to undo all of that conditioning of years and years and years of what we've been taught about what is normal to do with money and what feels normal to run a business, right? Because 50 years ago, generations ago, all those stories that we were passed down from our parents and grandparents and great grandparents, the world looked very different then. In the 1900s, right, there was no TikTok. The way that you can go viral now, the way that you can speak to millions of people and speak your truth and help other people on their journey has completely radically shifted. So all of those old narratives around money, they are simply not serving you and they are not relevant. But what is true is it keeps you feeling safe and it keeps you feeling secure. But when we're in that place of safety and security, even financially, sometimes it can mean that we're not growing. And so the future is always uncertain. Actually, what needs to happen is we're not getting certain on where the income is going to come from, because when we attach ourselves to the certainty of how or where the money is going to come through, actually we limit the possibility of it coming through in other ways. And so we want to be feeling like, we're certain that it's going to happen, but not necessarily attached to the method or the way that it's going to come through, right? And so when we do that, we start to open ourselves up to other opportunities, and other ways of this money flowing to us. But all that needs to happen is you make the decision, you make the investment, whether that's in a financial coach, whether that's in some kind of support for your business, some way, somehow, just by having that intention behind it and backing your decision about your intention of what wants to happen, what needs to happen, and what is inevitable, i.e., your business or your financial success, that is always going to come back to you. I promise you. It's the way. It's a universal law, right? It's science. It's the way that the universe works. When you have your idea and you back it and you trust it and you double down, the universe will always deliver, right? And so we don't want this mask to slip. We don't want to think to ourselves, oh, I'm going to build this amazing business and I'm going to help and be of service to loads of people and I'm going to follow this person and do all the social media things that they tell me to do. And then we look and go, hang on a minute, why am I not going viral like they did? It's because the intention behind it is very different. Okay. And so get intentional, know your why, the why behind the buy, but the reason why you want something. Why is it important? Just like this person who purchased the property, why was that important to you? Why is it important to you to build this business? Why is now the time for you to step up and start managing your money better? Why? If you've had that thought, what is the significance of now? Life is short, people. Life is short. And so we get one shot of this life. Make the most of it. Be who you want to be. Forget what other people say. Everyone's going to have an opinion, honestly. Like, I'm sure even my videos, people are thinking some way about my videos. Oh, they're not polished. Oh, they're not this and not that. Like, do I care? No. Am I living my best life? Yes. And ultimately, that's all that matters. No one else is living your life. No one else is paying your bills for you. So show up with authenticity. Show up, speak your truth, know your truth, and seek evidence that supports the belief that you want to have. Okay. It's really interesting. The other day, I was having a conversation with someone, and they said that every morning they say their prayers and then they write down these affirmations that they have for themselves. And they wrote down the other day that I am enough. And what came up for them was like, am I really enough? And I told them, even just the word enough has this duality to it. Everything is duality, right? The sun, the moon, the light, the dark, everything is full of duality. This is the world that we operate in. So the duality of I'm enough or I'm not enough is actually too much. So I'm too much. My ambition's too much. So sometimes we think that we might say this affirmation like I'm enough, and the connotation behind that is actually, am I enough or am I too much? And so sometimes we need to tweak this language. And a way that we can reframe this is I am complete, whole, and resourceful as I am. And this is what I shared with them. You know, we are all creative. We are all resourceful. We are all whole as we are right now in this moment. And when we show up with that presence, when we show up with that certainty, and we get rid of this idea of like being not enough or being too much, or our dreams or ambitions, like not being enough, being too much, and all of these things like, oh, my energy is too much. No, no, you are exactly where you need to be right now in this moment. And when you accept yourself for that, other people will accept you too. And on that note, I'm going to leave this little quickie video right on my YouTube, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next one. And if you have any questions, any thoughts, please drop them in the comments, like, subscribe as always. And I'm always available if you have any questions and you want me to explore any specific topics, whether it's specifically to do with practical money stuff, whether it's to do with money mindset, then I'm here to be of service to you. Have a great day.